Fans called it Moonshine Throwdown. I think that's the best rivalry name, an unofficial name, but the best rivalry name I've come across.
Yeah, unofficial that should become official soon enough.
Embrace it.
Ot Elmore joins the scoring madness.
That was beautiful.
Williams runs it down.
It's
Into the
going
hands
up.
of Elmore. Here it goes. And it's going in.
From the hash. Carter.
Unlimited. Jon Elmore. Even at 52.
7 seconds left. Marshall 67, Western Kentucky 66. West looking to get it in. Gets it into Burks. C.J. Burks triple team, throws it over the top to Elmore, across to Williams. Left wing, 2 seconds left, 1 second left. The horn sounds, and Marshall wins the Conference USA Championship 67-66 over Western Kentucky. Have you ever seen a Buffalo dance?
Welcome back to the Moonshine Throwdown podcast. Guys, we have a very, very special episode this evening. Trace and I are taking the reins. Stephen is MIA this afternoon, but we are welcoming in two very, very special guests, as I'm sure you heard from the intro that we put out in this very special Moonshine Throwdown podcast. We've got the brothers Elmore with us. That's right, Ot and Jon Elmore joining the show tonight. We're going to talk about life, some basketball, and word on the street is these guys are trying to break into the podcasting game. So we're going to talk about that as well, because I'm a little intrigued. I got to tell you, the idea behind a Ot and Jon Elmore podcast is pretty exciting. It's not just for us, but I'm sure for Herd fans, basketball fans, and a lot of folks maybe across the West Virginia area and around the world. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate you.
No, thank you guys for agreeing to do this. It's pretty cool. You guys are our inaugural, I guess you could say, interviewees from the Herd side of things. We've had some few from Hoops anyway. We've had a couple of football alumni throughout the years doing this show, but you guys are going to be our first basketball alums, so we're pretty pumped about that. But I want to get straight away in, and we're going to start talking about this podcast, because we saw that the other day. And I want to know, if you kind of give me the lowdown on what you're trying to do. What's the concept behind the show? What are you wanting to do with it? Why now? Why is now the time you feel like it's the time to do it? And I guess really, folks really want to know, what's this thing going to be called? So lay it on me. Give me some details behind this podcast venture we got coming up.
I kind of came up with the idea playing overseas this year. You have a lot of downtime over there, a lot of time on your own, being 6 hours ahead with the time difference. So in between practices and stuff, you find yourself bored, struggling to find things to do. So just talking with some friends, family, and talking to Ot, coming up with an idea where we can share stories, we can have guests on, whether that's coaches, teammates of mine, friends, people like that, and really just sit down and have conversations about sports, about life. And I mean, me playing professional basketball, Ot playing college basketball. We've got another guy that's going to be participating as well. Using that platform to kind of help people, people that were in my shoes growing up, or people that were don't always have the answers to questions, people that are interested in talking sports and life and stuff like that. So using that platform and our love for the game and our passion for helping people, that was kind of where the idea started. And from our initial discussions, we're fired up to see where it goes.
I think you're going to have a fairly large audience from the get-go. I saw you put out that you were looking for a creative name. Have you guys settled on a name yet?
We have a little play on word. It's called Courts in Session.
Okay.
I'm in law school next year. My dad's a lawyer. My mom's a lawyer. So we thought that little play on word with basketball courts and courts in session would be kind of a hit. And so we're sticking with that, and we're excited to move forward with the process.
Court is in session. Court's in session. I like that. That's very, very creative play on words. I thought I thought you guys were going to go with something like you had on the Twitter account there, From the Hash or Behind the Arc or something like that. So this is a whole new, not a whole new direction, but a different option that I hadn't seen yet. So when can we expect the first episode to drop, do you think?
So we had our first initial meeting the other day just to talk about the direction of the podcast, what all was going to go into it. And, I mean, the biggest thing with the podcast is we decided we all want to be committed. This isn't something we want to do a couple episodes and then everybody forgets about it. This is something that we're genuinely passionate about. And so we've got equipment on the way. We're brainstorming how to approach it week in and week out, probably do an episode a week. But hopefully in the next 2 weeks we have something, whether that's just a practice run or we actually get our first episode out there. So trying to build the hype around it, like you said, getting people involved with Twitter polls and stuff like that, making little announcements here and there. But it's a fun process to get started up. I mean, I'm sure you guys know that doing a podcast takes a lot of work, but it's also a chance to talk sports and life and everything else with some of your really good friends. So we're fired up.
Well, I'm not going to steal this podcast from you at all, but I will tell you this. This is absolutely the most fun thing I do in my life outside of hanging out with my family. You know what I mean? Because I get to be myself. I get to talk about what I want. I don't have a boss. So my opinions are my own. And, we really get to take the show as any direction we want. And I think when you get going, you're going to find that that's probably the best part about it too. So I'm pretty excited to hear about it. But let's transition now, since we've talked about this podcast we're going to get. I want to tell you that we will obviously help you get the word out there any way we can. We'll drive listeners to you. Of course, you won't need our help, but we will help get the word out there. But let's talk about life. Okay. Just a little bit about life. It's been a couple of years since you guys departed from the herd. Things are going in various directions. So Trace, chime in here. I am feeling like I'm hogging the podcast, and let's transition these guys into life. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with you on this. What's been going on lately? At least, especially since your herd days and everything. Just what's been going on with life, other than just being quarantined in our houses forever. But
right off the NCAA tournament, I was fortunate enough to become assistant college basketball coach at Glenville State.
Yeah,
I went up there for a year and a half. My longtime girlfriend / fiance went with me. Turns out I got married. And once you get married, when you're not making very much money, you have to make a different decision. So I decided to give that up, and I'm going to law school, hopefully make a little bit more money, start a life, have a family, that type of thing. So I've just been living life since I've left the herd.
That's awesome, man. That's really exciting news for sure there. John, same question. Just what's been going on? You mentioned briefly about you playing overseas. What else has been going on? Life. Just lay it out there.
I actually can't hear Trace on mine.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
he was asking the same thing that he asked. What's been going on? Basically, since you're playing days with the herd, we know you're playing overseas. But kind of catch the fan base up a little bit about what's been going on with Jon Elmore.
So after the season ended last year, I flew out to LA. I was training out there, doing a lot of NBA pre-draft workouts. I was flying all over the country for a period of a month there. I had, I think, 8 or 9 workouts, literally flying from state to state, city to city. It was a hectic period. I flew from LA to Phoenix to Miami to Sacramento to Indiana to Detroit, and Detroit to Boston. So, I mean, it was just constant travel. But, I mean, it was a blessing. It was a lot of fun because, 1, they're paying for everything. 2, you're working out against some of the best college players there are. Everybody's auditioning for a shot at millions of dollars. You've got Brad Stevens in the gym, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra in the gym, Larry Bird in Indiana. I mean, something you dream about. So having those opportunities was great. Ended up playing summer league with the Celtics, and it was kind of an up and down experience, but I'm glad I did it. And then after that, just working with my agent. I have a great agency that's kind of been there for me every step of the way. I ended up going to Italy, signing to play there. Was in a really good league, and the situation was kind of up and down. Switched teams during the middle of the year, which in Europe, guys kind of move quite frequently, whether it's financial situations, whether it's better opportunities, more playing time. It's not like here where guys are just with teams forever. I mean, Europe, you're kind of bouncing around year in, year out. A lot of times there's a lot of people moving throughout the year. So I ended up moving, went to a really good situation, had some success there, and then boom, the coronavirus stuff hit. So I had only played 6 or 7 games in my new spot. The whole league gets shut down. We flee out of Italy because Italy, everything that was going on there was just devastating. So now I'm back here training, trying to stay sharp and be ready for whenever the next opportunity will be. But as of right now, nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. We're glad, of course, you got out of there in one piece and everything's okay. Herd fans will love the fact that you're still working out and looking for that next opportunity. Guys, you know that this podcast and my Twitter account that I run, the Moonshine Throwdown, is based around rivalry. It's one that we're trying to build, obviously, between Western Kentucky and Marshall. We feel like you guys on the court are really helping that along on both sides. But I've got this unique opportunity right here in front of me where I'm talking to 2 brothers, and nobody knows rivalry better than brothers. So we're going to lighten it up a little bit. I need to know one thing from a brother-to-brother standpoint. When you guys were kids, what's that one thing that John used to do that would bug you to no freaking end, man?
I don't know. I can't really think of anything that he did that bugged me. I know we'd always get. I think the biggest thing was just when we'd compete. It might not always go so smoothly. It could end in a fist fight, or it could end in us both enjoying ourselves. But I don't think he really bugged me, or he really did anything to annoy me, so to speak. We got in a lot of fights, just more out competitive spirit, competitive nature than anything that one of us did.
I've spoken like a true attorney. So, John, you gotta give me a little something. I mean, nobody's the perfect brother. Now, I realize that there's fist fights and shoving matches, but man, I mean, I don't have any brothers, I don't have any sisters, but I had tons of cousins I was close with, and there were plenty of them that did those. They knew how to push my buttons. So I know Ot had to have this one thing to push your button, man. What is that thing that he used to bug you?
So I think of myself as like a pretty good dresser. I think I got pretty decent amount of swag, style, whether that's shoes, clothing, stuff like that. And I'd come in some days and like maybe he's wearing my t-shirt or like my shorts or like my shoes even. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when this guy would
It looked better on me anyway.
Just walk into my room while I'm not there and grab something of mine. I mean, yeah, so that was one of the many fights we had, and our parents probably wanted to kill us because they bought it anyways, the clothes when we were young. But, I mean, that was probably the biggest thing besides fighting every game of one-on-one because he would make bad calls or something. I don't know, man.
No, I can see that for sure. My son gets torn up when his buddies are borrowing his stuff too. So if it's somebody he could walk across the hallway and clock in the jaw, then I'm sure he would. But no, I get that for sure. Now look, we couldn't think about having a podcast with the brothers Elmore on here unless we talked a little bit of basketball. And we know that the next venture, I guess, if it's going to be able to be played, is the basketball tournament. You guys have taken part in that in the last couple of years, I believe. 2 years, maybe this is year 3 for the basketball tournament for you guys. New team name, right? The Heard That team. So let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, give us the rundown, some names that Heard fans might recognize that are on this roster. Then let's talk about how people can get to show you support and become fans of your team. So let's talk about the basketball tournament for a little bit. Give me all the ins and outs and the particulars so folks can show you the proper support that you need.
All right. Well, this is, like you said, this is year 3. This is going to be John's second year, but it's going to be the 3rd year we did it. For the Marshall fans, we're going to have, as of now, we've got 5 former Herd players signed up. Me and John, of course. CJ Burks, John's backcourt partner there for 4 years at Marshall, one of the top 10 all-time leading scorer in school history, that type of deal. So they're pretty familiar with each other. We have Ryan Taylor, of course, super player in the Marshall leaderboard for just about every statistical category they have. I mean, Just a great player. And then lastly, Steve Browning. Of course, me and John have known him since our middle school days. Good friends. So those are the 5 Marshall guys we've got signed up. We have Chris Coakley, a name that both of you guys will be familiar with at UAB.
Yep.
He is the first team all-conference guy in Conference USA and just an absolute stud, one of the leaders on their team when they upset Michigan State in the first round of the NCAA tournament. In addition to that, we have Tino DiTrapano, another kid that me and John have known our whole lives, played at UC. Just a Charleston guy, just some more local flavor. We currently have a couple spots we're still looking to fill. We have a lot of potential names. One of them Marshall fans would know is Dean Penova. So we got that, trying to work that out. Would love to have him come back. Of course, him with the rest of us would be just like an old Marshall team. And in terms of showing support, we're registered for the tournament. If you log on to thetournament.com, that's what it's called, thetournament.com. You go to look up teams. We're heard that. You click on our team, and then you click. There's going to be an orange link that says support. You just click on support, and show you're a fan of our team. And the more support we get, the more popular the tournament views us as, the better seeding, the better sort of matchup, that type of deal that we will get.
All right, guys, get here. Go to thetournament.com, search teams, find Heard That, click the orange link, and become a fan of the Heard That team. Show that support, because this sounds like it's a pretty talented roster as it is. And if they're looking to add a little bit more talent, look out. They could make a real run in the tournament. You got to like the fact that there's a bunch of names from that 2017-18 Herd team, which we're going to talk about here in a couple of minutes, because let's face it, they reached a height that a lot of Herd fans had never seen before, and some hadn't seen in a real long time. So, Trace, I'm going to see if he's got his mic working, because, again, I feel like I'm just talking way too much, and poor Trace is just sitting there missing out. So, see if your mic is working for these guys now, and we'll let you chime in here. If not, I'm going to keep running with the show.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
I can.
I can't.
Okay, you got Ot, but you don't have John.
Okay, well, I'm not sure.
Good ones, so you got the good ones, so we can just keep going.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, I'll try to get us started off, see if you can figure out what's going on, and try to chime back in here in a minute. So speaking of that 2017-18 Herd team, a lot of fans cling to that as the best Marshall basketball team that they've seen in a long, long time. The stats, wins, losses, and trophies back it up, as also evidenced by the fact that you garnered Marshall's first ever NCAA tournament win. No small feat. And we all know about, the scoring and the defense and the wins and the losses and the awesome run in the Conference USA title game and the tournament as a whole. Let's talk. Tell me one thing about this Marshall team that your average fan isn't going to know about. Like, just something that sticks out to you that's not wins and losses. You know what I mean? Something that can help those folks identify with the personality of that team a little bit more.
I think the biggest thing was, we were kind of up and down during the year. I don't think there was ever one point, especially early on, that we had just pieced it all together, played a lot of inconsistent basketball. But I think the thing you see with a lot of mid-majors and teams like that is you get better as the year goes on. And I think each game and each week we've got in season, I think the team came together more. Everybody kind of understood their role, what they needed to bring to the team, what was expected of them to bring to the team. And I think people just flourished in that role. Dean took off at the end of the season. CJ took off. I was playing good ball. And then Jared West, and we had other guys stepping up every game, Jansen Williams. But, as the season progressed, the team became tighter and tighter. What we were trying to do became more and more evident. And as you saw, especially at a mid-major, you have to be playing your best basketball going into the tournament, because essentially that's your only way of going dancing, is winning those 3 games in 3 days or 4 games in 4 days. So us playing our best basketball at the right time was something that a lot of people don't know about, because some people thought we were playing good during the year, but I think we were just really inconsistent, and getting that consistency at the end and hitting our stride at the right time couldn't have came at a better time, to be honest.
Yeah. It always helps when you're raising the trophy at the end of the tournament. That definitely means you hit it right on the money. So what's that one thing that's, when you think back to that 27-18 team, what sticks out in your mind? What's the one thing that most people probably don't know about that you would like them to know about?
I think the biggest thing for me was, outside of the accomplishments and the basketball part of it, was everybody genuinely liked each other. I mean, we were in there having a good time. Like, if we're watching film and somebody did something just idiotic, I mean, we're all giving them crap about it. We're all laughing. We're at team meals. I mean, we might be making fun of the video coordinator one day, or joking with them, having a good time. Like, I mean, from the coaches to the players to the managers, support staff, trainers, everybody genuinely got along, and everybody had a good time with everybody. I mean, it was a great experience all year long. Like, and just go into that, like, that whole team. We're bringing most of those guys back to play in the TBT. Like, everybody genuinely got along. Everybody's still in touch for the most part to this day. We see each other, or we'll meet each other at a Herd game or something like that, and it's like no time went by at all. So, I mean, it's just like we're all old friends. I mean, it was just a great experience, and it was a fun time, and you couldn't have asked to do it with a better group of guys.
That's the type of thing that I think Marshall fans will really enjoy hearing, because let's face it, when you're in Huntington, Marshall's the only game in town. There's nothing else. It's Marshall or nothing. I mean, outside of high school sports, but to hear them, and to hear you say this truly was like a family atmosphere. We all know that they hang their hat on that Herd Family hashtag, and it's nice to hear that that's not just a hashtag, that actually happens, especially in not just your run-of-the-mill team, but your championship-style teams as well. One more question, a couple of questions I've got to know. This is not necessarily about that 2017-18 team, but just in Conference USA, your thoughts. What was the toughest venue for you to play in conference outside of the Cam Henderson Center? The Cam has a great reputation for being a real home court advantage. So when you hit the road, what's the one place that seemed like it was the toughest place to go in and get a win?
Western. Western every time. I remember, I think it was junior year. We were both playing really big basketball. Might have been junior year and senior year, actually. And I remember we were getting there for warm-ups. Warm-ups, I think we start with 90 minutes on the clock. I forget how much time was left in warm-ups. I think it was 60 minutes. And they unlocked the doors and everybody came in. And all I can remember is thousands, hundreds to thousands of students just came running in to fill the stadium, fill the gym. They're taunting us in warm-ups, letting us have it. But, you don't see that a lot. You think of Kansas and you think of those high majors, Duke and stuff like that, where the students are nuts. But, the way they fled into the gym 60-plus minutes before the game to get there and to get that atmosphere rocking, I hate Western Kentucky because that was our rival, but at the same time, you have to respect it because, there is a basketball love there, and they genuinely support their team. So that was always one of my favorite places to play and one of the hardest environments to play in.
Yeah. They care about their basketball, that's for sure. And you mentioned like this Duke, and if you look at those, a lot of folks don't realize if you go look at the programs with the all-time wins, Western's right up there among those teams. A lot of folks don't think about that. They think of the UKs and Louisvilles and kind of that's where Kentucky basketball ends, but Western Kentucky is up there with those elite of the elite programs and all-time wins. Ot, what was the toughest place to go in and play in Conference USA during your playing days with the Herd?
Well, I had a little bit more limited role than John, so I can't really say I got experience playing at all the different gyms. But I think one game I did play a lot in, and one game that was in a tough place to play was Old Dominion. They seemed to always be they had that brand new gym. Brand new gym. They had probably the best. My senior year, they had the best attendance in the conference for home games. So they had it packed out. It was a good atmosphere, a nice gym. I, of course, made the trip to Western, but it was a little too close a game for me to shine in. So that was an awesome atmosphere just to be a part of. But I'd have to say Old Dominion was a tough place to play.
Yeah, Old Dominion a couple of years ago when they were rocking was a really tough environment. I think they averaged well over 6K for the season. I could see that for sure. And I guess you alluded to this a little bit, fellas. I don't know, maybe not. But who was that one team that you just wanted to win? If you're going to go one and that's it on the season, we want that one win to be this team. Who's that team?
Probably Western. That's the game in the conference.
You'd have to say Western. Not only was it a rivalry, but Western always had one of the top teams in the conference too. So it wouldn't have been a meaningless win.
Right. No. But I mean, like on a personal level, you're like, man, I just do not like these guys. I want to get this win. You know, quality of team, whatever. It's just, this is the team I want to beat. If that's Western for you, that's music to my ears. I mean, I wasn't thinking too far ahead. I mean, I'm wearing my my Western t-shirt during the day. I didn't even think about it. That's just what I grabbed out of the drawer today, but it is what it is.
Get that ugly shirt off of there.
I'm repping Home Field Apparel, man. They make quality gear. They got some nice herd stuff too, but they didn't send me any of that. They sent me Western stuff. So let's talk about the direction of the Marshall program now. We're seeing some real stars come into their own in Huntington. They've got a young point guard there that is drawing comparisons to one Jon Elmore right now and Andrew Taylor. What do you think? Let's talk about the direction of basketball in Huntington. Give me some reasons why fans should remain very optimistic about the future of this program.
I think if you watch the last 5 to 10 games of the season, I think that should be enough right there. I think they were playing their best basketball down the stretch. I think early on they were kind of up and down, but, that was expected with totally new guys. We lost CJ, myself, Rondell. 3 seniors that played a lot, but also scored a lot and had huge roles with the ball every play. So, you had Jared and Tavion and guys like that really had to step up throughout the year. And I think they came into their own and they adjusted to those roles, and they're even excelling in those roles. So going forward, it's going to be more of a veteran-based team. You've got a lot of guys that have that experience, and we're fired up. I talk to Coach D'Antoni all the time, and I think he really truly believes that there's a good squad coming back and that they have a chance. So I think they do, man, just based off what I saw towards the end of the year, and I know all the guys that are coming back. I think they have a legitimate shot this year.
Well, we kind of talked about that in our basketball season wrap-up. We didn't think anybody necessarily wanted to face the Herd in the tournament. We kind of had the gist that some teams are lucky that the tournament got cut short because Marshall, kind of like that 2017-18 team, was catching fire at the right time. And they look like they were going to be dangerous. So, Ot, what do you think? It seems like Dan D'Antoni is still making that commitment to West Virginia basketball players. Signed 2 kids from not too far from you guys in Charleston, down in Logan and Chapmanville. How do you feel about the future of the Marshall program?
I think it's bright. Like you said, Coach D'Antoni's still running it. I think he's still sticking to what works. He got a bunch of West Virginia kids that he in his eyes, and of course in the eyes of the kids, were under-recruited and underappreciated. I think a big thing that is not just where he gets the kids is he gets good kids who are going to do things the right way. He's not getting a bunch of kids that have going to cause problems. He gets good basketball players that are good people, and as long as you're doing that, I don't care who you're playing against. I'm going to take my chances with you. And so I think it's extremely bright because he's doing things the right way. He's not cutting corners. He's not taking chances on bad kids that might have huge potential. He's bringing in kids that you know what you're going to get on and off the court. And in my opinion, that's the way to build a winner and way to keep winning. And I think that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, we've talked about many times that we believe on this show that Dan D'Antoni has brought the program to a much higher basement than it's been in a long, long time. Marshall really doesn't seem like it's any worse any given year than a middle of a barely pod 2 team. We don't see them finishing lower than 6th or 7th ever, even if the wheels fall off right now. So hats off to Dan D'Antoni and the program that he's built, and hats off to you guys for doing everything that you did in practices and games during preparation, whatever, to help get that program to that level. We're going to get you out of here on this because I know you guys are busy, but I mentioned before that that I've got a couple of kids. One of them's in high school. He likes playing basketball. You guys have been through the process, being recruited, having to do it in the classroom, and then being at the Division I level and beyond. How about offering some advice for some of those young West Virginia kids or just kids from areas like ours that are trying to make a go of it in basketball beyond high school?
The biggest thing I would say is if you genuinely love the game or you're genuinely passionate about it, that's the biggest thing that I found is I love the game of basketball. So every day that I get the opportunity to go to the room, work on my ball handling or whatever, that's something I want to do. And a lot of days you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, man, I feel terrible, or like I got a little ache, or I don't feel like going to the gym today. And I think those days really, at the end of the day, are the most important days. Even if you're not in the gym long, it's just going in every day and gradually working, because eventually it's going to pay off. There's a lot of hours that people don't see. And when it's all said and done, those are probably the most meaningful times when you're on your journey.
Good advice. Do it when you don't want to do it, right?
Exactly.
Can you offer any words of wisdom for these young kids as well, as they, try to navigate being noticed, navigating through the system, anything like that to help them out along the way?
My best advice would just to be the best you can be. Don't go in there and try to be, if you're a big guy, don't go in there and try to be Steph Curry. If you're a shooter, don't try to be LeBron James. Do what you do best and let everything else take care of itself, because a lot of the times when kids start to look bad or don't look as good, it's because they're not doing what they're good at. They're trying to show off stuff they're not good at. So just know your role. And if you got one skill that you can do really well, show that skill. You look really good if you're doing what you're good at. When you start doing stuff you're bad at or getting outside your own lane, that's when the wheels fall off. So just be the best person that you can be would be my best advice to them.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. That is excellent advice. I'll be honest with you. It's not something that I think about. Of course, I wasn't a recruited athlete trying to make a go of it. I'm just a guy talking on a podcast to a couple of basketball studs. Don't mind me. So we're going to get out of here. We appreciate you guys for giving us some time. Like I said, I know you're super busy. We don't want to keep you too much. So find the Moonshine Throwdown podcast on Twitter at Moonshine or at Moonshine TD, the podcast at MSTD_podcast. Of course, you can find the show anywhere that you can download a podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, and CastBox. Want to thank once again Ot Elmore and Jon Elmore for joining the show. It sucks that Trace's mic was a little jacked up tonight because I know he was pumped about this.
Oh, well.
Thank you guys once again for being a part of the show.
Well, thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. It's the Moonshine Throwdown podcast.